This is going to be one of my goals that's going to kind of intertwine into every other goal that I have for 2025, and that is a no-buy/low buy. The language around these things is always a little bit confusing for me because no one is doing a no-buy. That is literally impossible living in the economic structure that we live under. We have to buy things to survive. I've always kind of lived with a low buy, right? Like that's my ethos in general in life, is to buy as few things new specifically as possible. I'm going into this with that already being my norm and cutting down on things that I was still spending on or justifying. These are the whys that I have written out as to why I will be doing a no buy. First off, I think it's always good for us to continuously reassess our habits, and the beginning of the year is the perfect time to reset all of these things. That's why I often love the beginning of the year. But it's good to examine our habits, especially in this circumstance with spending, and try to break out of them. And it's also just good to look back at where your money was going and figure out if that really aligns with like your goals and your values and adjust accordingly. Hyper consumerism and just like overspending is kind of the default in our culture, especially on social media. Fighting off the hyper consumerism like mindset is a struggle for me because I am by default, and I like to joke that by blood, I am a shopaholic. So it's just good to reevaluate and give myself a challenge. I'm looking at doing this no buy as like a hard factory reset. Another reason I want to do this is because my income varies a lot. This will be my 9th year making videos on the internet, and so I have seen my income go up and down all across those times, and I'm always a little anxious about my job just like disappearing, and so I would just like to have a better buffer, and so getting myself into the mode of spending a lot less will just in general be better for everyone involved in my household. Okay, number 3, and I have to tell you that all these other ones are definitely secondary to this one, and this is the reason that I decided to do it. That is the incoming administration of the United States of America. The policies that this administration has promised to implement will undoubtedly raise prices for average working people like you and I. I just want to be prepared for that. I want to set myself up to where, if that is the case, I can still afford necessities because I've been pulling back spending in other areas. Not to mention that our elections are bought and sold by corporations. The whole system is really messed up, and I don't want to be contributing to the economy in the next few years in a way that is not necessary, in a way that is not essential. I want to stick to the essentials. And in fear of what the next year and the next several years, honestly, are going to look like, I need to get myself in the habit of pulling back on the spending. And that was kind of the big reason I was like, okay, we need to go into this year with a plan to save money. I also spent a lot of money in 2024 on health, both for myself, for some things that I had going on, and for my cat who had some things going on. And that was like a pretty big wake-up call for me that like, yes, we had the money to be able to do those things, but if any more of those things come up or they come up more consistently, and as I get older and as my cat gets older and my partner gets older, undoubtedly there will be more medical expenses, and I want to be able to have a safe buffer so that the decisions we're making are not coming down to money. I have a couple fun, more like frivolous reasons I want to do a no buy this year, and that is I really prefer a more vintage, like handmade aesthetic, if that makes sense. That's kind of a consistent thing for me, but I really want to prioritize not bringing things into my home unless they are particularly special. So that's one of the more like fun, silly reasons for me doing a no buy this year. I also just deeply value making things myself, and I feel like if I really make a conscious effort to buy less, the default option after that is to make stuff yourself, right? I would rather make things than buy them, so that's just a motivator for me doing this no buy. And then the biggest one probably after the incoming administration is I desperately need to iron out my relationship with money and my mental health. I tackled it at one point in my life. I have to say, I have always kind of been anxious looking at my bank account. I would like avoid looking at it at all costs up until I couldn't anymore when I graduated from school. And then my partner and I were really, really serious about paying down all of our student loans. That was like our first priority out of school. I was definitely tuned into my finances when that was going on. And then same thing when we were saving for a house, I was really tuned into it for all of that. And then at some point, I just kind of went on autopilot, and I fell back into this relationship with money where I don't like checking my bank account. I don't like thinking about how much I can or can't spend. I hate the thought of like going through my stuff to file my taxes. That is just not a good strategy, especially for saving money or setting yourself up for like success financially. I can't just keep avoiding it because it makes me anxious. I really need to deconstruct why that is, and I have some ideas, but that's like a huge motivator for me, is tracking my spending so closely that like I have no choice but to face my anxiety. And I will also work through this with my therapist, because I have enough anxiety. And if I can like just pick apart my triggers one at a time, that would be great. And money is a huge one for me. Okay, let's go through my essentials because I have watched so many people that I follow online over the years do no buys. And this seems to be something that you have to lay out in order to do a no buy. What are your essentials? I feel like a lot of ours are going to be the same. I did notice there are a couple things for me that are not essential that other people label as essential. So I'm just going to say our mortgage, obviously. We don't have to pay for electricity usually because we have our solar panels, but all of our like city services are kind of looped into one. So our electricity and all the fees associated with that, trash, water, it's all in one bill. So those are the essentials. They get paid. They are on auto draft. So I don't have to think about it. Although I'm pretty sure Madison tracks it every month, so she knows what's going on. Okay, we have car insurance, but I will say that in a lot of these videos, people just list these things as essentials, and I rarely see anyone say this, but you don't have to keep the insurance that you're with. All of these essentials, really, if your concern is saving money, don't just look at them and take them as like, oh, I have to pay that. You have to pay it. But there are ways to make it lower. So specifically, that's why I'm bringing it up, because with our car insurance, we shopped around this year because our insurance went through the roof last year, and we shopped around a little bit and we're saving $100 a month on our car insurance just by, I sound like a commercial, just by switching to Geico. No, but we really did. All that to say, yes, car insurance, I pay that in one lump sum in the year. I also pay my phone bill in one lump sum of the year because my mom used to work for AT&T, so she gets half off of her phone bill. So we stayed on my mom's phone plan, okay? The only other thing that I know is essential when I look through my bank account is therapy and any medical expenses. Like, I will not be skimping on anything medical in the name of saving money. Okay, now the fun stuff, things I am not spending on. These are specific categories that in the last year or two, I've noticed I've spent like a lot of money on that I could just have not spent that money. And if I was being conscious about it and putting it into my like retirement account, I think I would be much happier with that versus the stuff I spent the money on. You know what I mean? First thing is flights. I had a little travel era for myself and I don't regret it. I think I am willing to travel. I'm willing to have experiences. I still do want to be able to see people or do things if they come up. It has to be either I pay for a flight out of points from my credit card, or I'm doing it for work and there's nothing else that's going to be happening. I'm not paying any money for flights in 2025. I just simply don't need to be doing it. I need to save that money. And thinking about travel outside of flying, I think, is more sustainable in general. This next thing is the thing I'm most scared of that I will fail at, and it is not spending any money on tops. I cataloged my entire wardrobe at the end of 2024, and what I learned is that your girl has so many tops. Realized throughout that process that like the way I like to be styled is with layers. So it doesn't make sense for me to own a ton of bulky sweaters. It doesn't make sense for me to own a ton of tops in general. It would make more sense for me to buy things that give me the ability to layer. The way I was spending my money doesn't really even align with my personal style, and looking at my wardrobe, I realized I really just think like if I find the next best top, that will create the next best outfit. But what I've learned since cataloging my wardrobe is that is so wrong. I was so wrong. So I have signed myself up in 2025 to buy absolutely no tops. Gifts are on my no-buy list for 2025, and that is because I finally convinced my family that we don't need to be doing gifts. I actually have 0 presents to wrap this year. Well, I technically have a couple presents to wrap for my sister's foster kids, and that's the only exception to this rule of not buying any gifts this year is if my sister has foster kids, I will buy them gifts for Christmas and their birthdays, which is the only gifts I bought this year were for her foster kids. But I don't have to buy gifts for literally anybody else all year long, and I'm really excited about that. I don't think this one will be particularly hard for me, but I'm interested to hear if you would do the same. I'm not spending any money on events this year. What I have realized is that I often will spend money to go like hang out with my friends or go to an event because it feels like what I'm supposed to do as a member of the community. But I know in and of myself, looking at the things I've spent money on this year, that most of those events are not events where I am actually connecting with the person I'm with or with my community. I've talked about this, like focusing on value-based entertainment instead of spending money on you know, going out for drinks or dinner. Those are the sort of things I'm just not spending money on. And there are so many community events that happen in Austin for free. Like when South by is here, some events you have to pay to get into. I'm not doing it. When ACL is here, some events you have to pay to get into. I'm not doing it. I just think there are so many ways to connect with my community and to connect with my friends that we don't have to spend money to go do it. Oh man. Okay, food delivery services. This is a big area that if I look at my bank account and I could take all the money that I've spent on food over the last few years and just put that money directly into my savings account, I would be happier. But in the moment when I'm having a bad day or I'm feeling exhausted or I've been spiraling in my brain and I'm mentally just done, it's so nice that it's possible to just like order food to your home, but I financially can't do that anymore. I don't want to do it. I don't want to look back at my bank account and say, I could have put that in my retirement account, or I could have put that money towards remortgaging our house at some point. And I don't think it's realistic at this point to tell myself I will just never order food at all. And my credit card pays for an Uber Eats membership, I guess. So I'm going to cancel that. We'll see how that changes my habits. I won't be buying any craft supplies for the first 3 months of the year. This one scares me, but realistically, I have so much stuff. Sometimes I will go to Austin Creative Reuse and buy things with the hopes of like completing a project, and then I don't do that, and I have to stop doing that. Like I just can't do that anymore. So I think, as sad as it is, I think I'm swearing off the craft store for the first 3 months of the year. And I do think that buying less stuff and using what I have and blah, blah, blah will result in me being more creative. So at least for the first 3 months, and then I will reevaluate. And on my no spend list are things for my front yard. Okay. What I was doing when I sat down to create my goals for the new year and what resulted in making this video, I realized where my money was going. And the answer is the freaking front yard. And in a lot of ways, I love that. I love my front yard. I love investing in it. It makes me very happy. So I don't think I regret spending any of the money that I spent on it this year. But when I'm looking at it, honestly, there are so many plants out there that are still a little bit juvenile that need to grow up some more. I need to give them until their 3rd year before I really need to put any more plants in. And I also have just become really invested in some of the birds that are living out there. And so I've bought like bird feeders, and I bought different things for them. The bird feeders with the cameras. Listen, I don't need to keep going. The point is the amount of money I have spent on the front yard over the last year is too much. It's just too much. And at the end of the day, the things that I bought they're not adding the biggest value to the yard. I think the biggest value to the yard is that we don't mow it, to be honest with you. The things I'm buying and adding to it are not doing as much as the things that are already there, and the fact that we're not mowing and using pesticides and all those sort of things. I can take a year off of buying and planting things for the front yard. I'm focusing on the backyard this year anyway, telling myself no seeds for the backyard, no plants for the backyard, no pots, no nothing for the backyard. Just set up your garden and let's see what happens for a year without having to buy new stuff for it. No hosting stuff. I've become quite the hostess over the last year, and I feel like sometimes, very often actually, I feel I need to buy things to be a better host. And I think that's true to some point. You need a few things to host larger gatherings, but at this point, I have hosted several gatherings with the things that I have, and I don't need to get any more. So those are my big problem areas, and some things that I just need to rein in a little bit after reviewing my finances. Those are the things I won't be buying, and some of the things that are on my yes list is actually a pretty short list. Donations. I really value giving my money to organizations in Austin, a few of them outside of Austin. I do a lot of mutual aid work as well in Austin that I just donate things to when they need to be done. I also just keep cash in my car because the unhoused population in Austin is very unfortunately large, and I just like to be able to give them money. So those are like doing all of these things where I'm not spending money is so that I can still afford to do these things that actually I feel like mean a lot to me. And something I decided I'm going to do this year that I don't really know why I wasn't doing before is stocking up on essentials when they are on sale. I feel like this is something that people who do no buys or like minimalism challenges, they don't like this, but genuinely, if it's something I am going to buy, because at this point, some things in my life I am going to buy, I am a loyalist to, right? So this is like my moisturizer. It was recently on sale for 20%. Why would I not buy some for the next 3 times I would need to repurchase that so that I'm saving 20% on all 3 of those? Same thing with my deodorant. They recently had the biggest sale of the year. Why would I not stock up on that? But this category is specifically for essentials that I repurchase already, not buying things just because they're on sale. That's a different situation, I feel. And I know all too well what that looks like because my mom, I grew up as a child of a Kohl's mom. I don't know how else to say it. There are almond moms, there are Kohl's moms. If you know, you know. I am the daughter of a Kohl's mom who just bought things because they were on sale, and that's not what this is. I'm just saying when my essentials are on sale, I'm going to stock up. And there are some other things that we've sat down and talked about doing that will help us save money throughout the year. I'm going to link my video up here if you want to go see some other ways that I'm saving money in 2025 that are a little bit less like no buy and a little bit more just like things. But one of the things that we came up with a little deal for each other that we're going to do is Monday evenings are our Sabbath. Our friends know we don't make plans on Mondays. We only spend time with each other on Mondays typically. We're going to incorporate a Monday meeting where we go through our budget for the week, everything that we spent, just so we can keep it at a glance. And I think that interacting with it on a weekly basis like that will help me, again, deconstruct and kind of do like an exposure therapy to the anxiety that money creates for me. And the way that we're going to make that a little bit more fun, not so miserable, is by going and doing it at our local Mexican restaurant. And I think just creating like a ritual with each other is a good thing, because we dedicate a lot of time to our friends and our community and our neighborhood and all the things that we volunteer for. So having like that as like kind of like a date night, but like a productive one, I think is going to be really helpful to keep me on track for all of the things that I've talked about in this video. So yeah, I wanted to let you in on this because I think this is going to kind of be like a really big pillar of the videos that I make this year. It's going to be a big pillar of my life, so it just makes sense that it would seep in. And I would love to keep you updated. I'll definitely do it on my Instagram stories anytime I avoid spending money. I did do a no spend month, and I remember that instead of buying myself a bath tray, I used like a piece of scrap wood, cut it, and used it as a bath tray. And I really liked being able to share the ways that I avoided buying things with you guys on my Instagram. So if you're not following me over there, go do that. I'll also do probably like quarterly videos, I would guess, on this channel with updates of how I did those things, but you'll get the more daily updates on the gram. Wish me luck on some of these. I genuinely do find it hard to remove myself from shopping, and it's always been a struggle for me. And my main motivator for doing it for a long time has been the environment, but I feel like this is one of the first times that I am really like locking into it for reasons outside of the environment. It's for financial reasons. I'm very excited, but very nervous. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure you're subscribed if you're new here. And remember, until next time, you cannot do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that you can do. Bye, guys.